Hello, I'm Otto, and welcome back to Dyson Sphere Program. In the last episode, we started working on our mall. As you can see, we have some sorters and some belts over here. This is our kind of permanent mall. This is the one that's going to give us access to anything that we want anywhere in the galaxy. So we have, like I said, started working on this. We also, in the last episode, started collecting some of the materials that we haven't had a build for yet. So as an example, we have gears, rings, circuits over here. We have stone brick, the insider's glass, steel, and then over here in our build that is kind of just barely trickling out, we have some electric motors, some turbines, particle containers, supermagnetic rings. And then further down, we have some sulfuric acid and some graphene. We have a couple more things here and there, but we've also tapped a lot of the resource materials. Started mining up the resources around the map. Not quite all of them. I still have some coal and maybe some stone somewhere. I thought I had some stone somewhere. Anyways, not a big deal. So in this episode, we are going to continue working on the mall. And I might at some point I might just like reorganize this and make a really solid blueprint out of it, because the way that we're kind of unlocking things and the way that we're going to be setting this up, it's going to be one of those, like, I want it to be very easy to follow, right? So I think maybe in the future, I might make one of these that's a little bit more like well thought out and like actually put some time into thinking about where things are placed rather than just kind of like placing things willy-nilly. Anyways, so there's a couple things that we want to do. We have our kind of first ring, I guess, set up. And we did this like this so that we could kind of work in between the two towers and use them together rather than try to like just cram everything into one tower or only have a single item per. There are definitely a lot of situations where we will only have one item per tower, but sometimes it'll be in, you know, more than just your base quantity or like one machine. Sometimes, you know, we will have the combination of everything. Anyways, let's take a look at what some more of the builds are going to look like. So I mentioned that we were going to largely use these rings in here and this ring in here. While this ring is largely not really going to be used, it's just kind of necessary because of the way that the ILS towers kind of line up. So what I mean by that is we are going to place our next tower. So we are looking for the Tropic line in this area, which is here. And similar to what we did with the towers over here, we are going to offset this. So this is not going to go on the Tropic. It is going to go one in towards the North Pole. And if you then took that ILS and went around this line, that line that we placed this one on, and literally placed it on exactly the next most available place, the next most available intersection, let's say, or where there's a soft or hard line, then this would perfectly wrap right around the planet. We're not aiming for here, we're aiming for one of the lines. We are also going to continue on towards the North Pole and utilize this other section here. There's a Tropic line here, and there's a Tropic line here. So we're going to go one of the kind of soft line squares in right here, and we're going to place a tower there. Same thing with this. If you were to take this and wrap this all the way around, whatever is the next most available slot, and I believe you can get something like, I think we can get 10 of these. That goes there. Yeah, I think you can get 10 of them around the poles. Yeah, so this is 5, and then another 5 would be over here. So this is actually like a lot of people consider this space, like these tighter spaces, to be kind of useless, but we are going to be utilizing this space. So what are we going to be doing with it? Well, there's a couple of smaller builds that we can use. So this is our kind of central point. So I might as well start here. And we want to make a few things. So one of the things that we might want to make is engines. And to be honest, I'm not really too concerned about the engines. Actually, you know what? Let's just go ahead with the thrusters, because I think the drones and the vessels are going to be way more important, and that's what these are going to be used for. So we have the thrusters here, and the thrusters require steel and copper. All right, so what do we need? We already know what we need. I guess the question is, one, how many can we fit in here, and how are we going to have a buffer? Because we're not going to go this way. And the reason why is because once you start getting into dealing with belts across the tropics, it can become a little problematic. So you can kind of see like here, this is going to cause a problem. Yeah, it's so funky. We're just not going to worry about it. And we're going to stick to this section in here. So there are a few things we can do. One, we can have our incoming or our whatever we're crafting going in this direction, but we also maybe want to place a splitter. We're going to tab and make it narrow, and then place that, and a chest, because we would like to have a buffer. And this is going to kind of dictate how this build plays out. So the reason why I needed this to be thinner is because at some point we will have the ability to get the space warpers, and we want to have all of them kind of connected. That way we don't have to request in like space warpers here, and then space warpers here, and the space warpers here. They can all just kind of feed into each other. So this one could very well be the one that gets the warpers, and we would just loop that all the way around the pole. Anyway, so that's why we are making this one narrow, so that is kind of important. This also gives us the ability to bring in an item in this direction if we want. And the way that I'm going to set this up is I would like it if... We're actually not going to use that right now. I would like it if we could get at least one belt around. So it would look like this. So we need at least the belt to be able to wrap around away from this tower. And the reason why is because in case we double up on some of the builds, so let's say that, for instance, we have 5 of these here. Well, if we wanted to have, let's say, steel coming this way, this is actually, might as well just go ahead and set the build up while we're kind of talking about it. We could double up like this, but I do want everything to kind of be funneled into one section. So I don't want the line from this going in over here, let's say. I do want it all going into one chest. So that is pretty much how this is going to look. So we can start to set that up. I'm also not concerned with the pile sorter. We really don't have to worry about that right now. This is not a situation where we're going to be like producing so many of these that we have to stack them up. So just the regular one is fine. The Mark III pile, the Mark III sorter. So we need incoming. This is the steel and the copper. And then we need this outgoing here. And that is going to be thrusters. Eventually we will have the satellite substations, but I suppose we can just use these for now. Actually, I think I want this more like this. That way that will also power this. Red means it has coverage but does not have power, so as long as it's not blinking yellow like this guy over here, then we are fine. Okay, and then we could request this in if we wanted. We could do remote request in, but it's not that big of a deal. Eventually eventually it might be, but for now at least, that is perfectly fine. Let's see, so we will have the normal thrusters here. We could also technically just copy this and paste it over here. Make sure it is lined up in the same way. And just swap out the thrusters for the reinforced thrusters. So this needs the titanium alloy and what else? The turbines. Ah, yes. Our lovely favorite turbines. And I'm not going to set this too high, so we'll just leave this at 100 for each for now. If you get to a point where you feel like you need more, then by all means you could certainly add, make it 500 or 1,000. I don't think you'd ever need any more than 1,000, but for now we're just going to set it to 100. That's probably not enough early in the game. It would almost certainly need to be at least 500, just because of the speed of the bots, or sorry, the drones. Anyways, so that also would need to be connected there. And yeah, I think that build is good to go as well. So we also need these for our drones, and there's a few other things that we could use them for. That's why I'm not adding them into a build, but like combining it with like the drones, because we already know that we need 2 of these to make one assembling machine that is crafting the drones. We need 2 of these to have one assembling machine that is crafting the vessels. So this does mean that we can feed 5 of each. I don't think we're going to do 5, but we're going to use these builds, and we're going to do, I think, 4. And the reason why we're doing extras is because these are actually used for more than just the drones. This one is also used for the orbital collector, as you can see, which we really need to get to the orbital collector. Anyways, so we're going to do something similar. We're going to have this over here. Let's say I would still like to have this, have the option to have a lane over here, but it's not super important. And our incoming is going to be, I guess we could do this lane. I could drop it 1, 2, aim for the middle. Oh, excuse me. Not sure how I clicked on that, but whatever. There we go. I also don't think I set a limit to this. So this is our little buffer. We only want like 1 stack. And to be honest, the buffer is probably not necessary, but you know what? Sometimes it's nice to... If your item is crafting, like if we're crafting more than one type of item that needs this, then it's maybe a good idea to have a buffer, because for the most part, 10 of these would be able to feed 5 of these. But if we needed these for the item that also needs it, I think it's the upgrade to the missiles, if I remember correctly. I don't even know how far down the line that one is, or even where it is. There it is. Yes, okay. Anyways, so what do we need? Let's get the drone. So we have 3 ingredients. We have the iron ingots, we have processors, and we have the thrusters. If you wanted to do it like this, that is perfectly fine. Have 1 item incoming and then 1 item outgoing. processors and thrusters. And last but not least, we need some power. Okay, so that is basically how we're going to set that up. The vessels is pretty much identical here. And I'm going to go through and just kind of set down a couple of these because we're going to make these off screen. So this would be let's just do one right next to it. So this is the vessels. Following this line, we could also, like, I'm using this section up here more for like material type things. And this down here, I'm more using for stuff that you might find in a mall, but that you could like scale up. So for instance, you don't have to make all 4 of these. You could just start out with one over here on the end. So if I wanted to set it up like this, I could totally be like this, start with room for 4, make sure that everything fits. And then just, you know what, I'm not going to put these in right now. Let's say that you don't feel like you have, you know, enough materials, or you don't have enough power or whatever. You could just set it up like this. And just do the one, and then eventually somewhere down the line go, okay, I need more, and then add more. So the vessels is a good example of that. I'm personally going to be making as many as I can. I'm going to set these builds up for maximum throughput, let's say. But we can at least just kind of figure out, like, maybe, like, get an idea on where some of these things are going. So this would probably be like the prototype. There are 5 different combat units that are going to be available here. And I assume that at some point they're going to have maybe an equal amount of space combat units at some point. So we are going to have some leftover space. And this is going to be, you know, largely what is going to go in this area. So that is that. All right, so we obviously are having some problems with materials. We've opened up some of these, and I talked about how I've limited these to a very small amount and why. So real quick, I'm going to set this up for the magnetic coils. I'm also going to set this one up for gears. I am going to have to actually set it up because I have not... Sorry, I have the blueprints for them, but there's no real easy way... Wait, let me just double check and make sure I'm not about to eat my words. Can I take the gears... Okay, so it worked with everything except for the tower, which is fine. All right, so I'm going to set this up for the rings, the magnetic rings. I'm going to set this up for the gears, and I'm going to set one up over here for the circuits. So just real quick before I kind of cut over, I'm actually lining this up. It's not supposed to line up with this, but you can kind of zoom in. So if you look at the center of that tower where all those belts are meeting in, that's where I'm kind of like aiming. And I'm aiming to try to reach this spot right here. So if I just kind of pay attention and make sure to line things up, I can smack that down right where I need. All right, so I am obviously missing some stuff. So I will be back in a second. I will have the circuits here, the rings over there, and the gears over here. Okay, and we're back. So I have my circuits, I have my gears, and I have the rings over here. And there's more that we will add at a later point in time. Probably in the next episode, we will start working on some more of the smelting over here and some more of the components that we will be dropping. Again, stuff we already have, we've already created. But one last thing that I want to do before we end the episode is I want to continue working in the other direction, because to kind of try to keep up with what you have, you might end up like maybe setting a couple of these down. So like, let's say that I wanted to use this as the miners, which means that I could also use this for the future mining, or I might just leave that like that just for now. That's a bad idea. So that way that I could utilize the, oh, not that one. Utilize the super magnetic rings, since we have 5 ingredients and still need room for the actual item here. So that is where this is. So we would have this be the top slot and then 4 ingredients, and then have the 5th ingredient come from the side. So you might have things set up like that. You might also just kind of start working around and go, you know what, I want this, and just kind of go across the line. But there are a few things that I know probably should go together. And so like, for instance, the Tesla tower, the wireless power tower, and the satellite substations all should probably go together, since they all kind of need each other. Same with the logistics stations. So we're going to set up the logistics stations here. That way I don't have to continue relying on the bots. And I am intentionally leaving them split like this, rather than have them, you know, be somewhere like in the middle here, which is a perfectly viable option. The reason why I'm leaving them like this is because it kind of works out over here. So what do I mean by that? This is going to be the planetary logistics station. This is going to be the interplanetary logistics station. This is where our orbital collector will go. And they all kind of rely on each other. So we could, for instance, rely on the machine to bring us PLS, but this is going to store 100. And we're not going to be using that many of these. So there are maybe some situations where you might want to use them. So an example might be, you know, you are on a planet and you maybe want to craft something, but you only want to use like what is available on that planet rather than bring stuff in. So you might have like planetary logistics. Like that's kind of just a crapshoot idea. Like I don't know if you would actually want to do that. I've never personally wanted to do that. I've just always used ILS and it seems to work out fine for me. So we're not going to do it like this. We're going to have 0 in here, but I would like to have this as a reference point so that I can see, okay, I need the steel. I need the titanium. We need the processors and particle containers. But I also need this to be able to get over to the ILS. So instead what I'll be doing is just dragging a belt all the way through and having this connect like this. And we'll do the same thing for the ILS. So we're going to have this come out on a belt here. Before I do that, I think I might, let's just preemptively put a belt here. I don't know if we actually will need one here. We probably will. We almost certainly will. So then I can drag this into here. That goes in. But then I'm also going to have this go over to the orbital collector because it requires the ILS. So this belt here stores 40. And that would mean that we would not necessarily need to rely on the planetary logistics bringing us, let's say, 100 from this route. So we are not going to worry about that. And we're just going to focus on the other ingredients, some of which we have, some of which we don't. This we have not turned on yet. And we're also not going to worry about the accumulators because the accumulators are going to come from over here. And this is largely why I have it set up like this. So, we don't have, I don't think we have the ingredients yet, but we need to, oh, we do. We can potentially get all of these. Okay, well, we could either hand make a few or add them to this mall, but for now, I'm not going to worry about it. I just kind of want to show it off, and then we can set other things up after. So let's get into this. So we need 4 ingredients. I'm definitely going to have one of these be here. Titanium. Processors. And particle containers. There we go, and its only output will be over here. Honestly, these craft slow enough, you could also consider doing something like this. That way it has a lot less, let's say, storage. There won't be as much storage on this belt, and maybe the same thing over here. This is just if you wanted to, because the range of these is far enough that, and like this takes what, 30 seconds to craft? I'm pretty sure that you can get one of these from here to here in 30 seconds. So that's just a way to save a little bit. I don't know how many that leaves us. I don't know if that's like 30 something, or like I don't know exactly how many are stored on each of the tiles. It's probably maybe close to 2, let's say 2. It's probably 2 per tile. So this would have been 10, 20, 30, pretty close to 40 plus whatever was stored in here. So yeah, let's say 2 per tile. So that saves us 2, 4, 6, 8 over here and 4 over here. Well, there you go. Okay, so this was the ILS, and it additionally needs the titanium alloy and the particle containers. So let's call this one the alloy, and the other one can be the particle containers. And this one would also be buffered at just 1 stack. We're not buffering this one at all. We will buffer this one. And you got to remember too, like this is going to have 100 in storage, and this one buffer will have a stack of 10. You could buffer this up more if you wanted to. I'm going to leave it like this for now, because once we bring in 100, like 100 is a lot. Once we get into the point where we are bringing these in, we're definitely going to start utilizing this section over here for storage a little bit more. Maybe not so much the PLS, but yeah, we haven't really done much with this over here. Not a big deal. We are definitely going to ramp up on that as soon as we can. Okay, so the reason why I have these separated, and the reason why it will be separated for these all the way around these builds, is because of the accumulator. So I'm going to off screen create some of these, the energy exchangers. We are going to add this to our mall. I'm not going to do it right now. I am pretty sure that we do not have all of the materials. Not that I've requested anything in, but you know what? I take it back. I'm just gonna grab the materials and handcraft them real quick. So I will be back shortly. Okay, so I have made 2 of the energy exchangers, and the 2 of them are going to go over here somewhere. Like that, and there. So once we start using the accumulators, we are going to feed these out onto belts. They go directly in. And what they do is we will set these to charge, and they will charge these accumulators for us. And that's how we're going to get the charged accumulators here. They will then spit out what they need or what they are making. It will meet somewhere in the middle here, and then they can just be collected over here. Like that. I kind of skipped this. Let's just go ahead and set this up too. I actually don't need a return line. This is literally the only thing that we're going to be using this for. I just don't care to have accumulators out. It's not really worth it in my opinion. So this needs iron plates. This needs these super magnetic rings, and it needs crystal silicon. So that is going to be that. I have created a blueprint for this one. But there are better ones, let's say. There's some rare materials that we can use to make this, and we can get quite a bit of that. So we can remote request all of these in. We obviously do not have that many of this one at all. We definitely don't have any of this, which is something that we're going to need to make soon once we start heading towards purple science. I believe that is one of the ingredients for purple. Sorry, it's the ingredient for this guy to then make purple. So yeah, let's see. So we would have one of the materials coming into the middle, one coming in down here, yeah, and that would look something like that. And the reason why I needed to have these this far back is because I really want to not use the power poles, and I would like to just use these satellite substations at one point, or at some point. And those will nice and neatly fit right here on every single block and cover everything in the area. But these kind of get in the way because they kind of need a straight shot up into the sky, and you can't put them too close to some things, and it just happens that the satellite substation is one of those. So yeah, I played around with a lot of different places that these could be placed. I tried actually having 3 of these here, just one. It just felt better to have 2, and we will eventually get to the substations. So yeah, we need some framing material for that. So that is going to be it for me for this episode. In the next episode, we're going to make a few more, we're going to put a few more things on the mall. And like I said, a lot of these I'm not necessarily going to show, but some of them are a little bit more difficult than others. So because of that, we are going to have a few things that I'm showing off. So another one is the power poles. I don't remember, did I already do these assembling machines? I don't think I did. Yeah, we've got a couple things, but anyways, that is going to be it for me for this episode. Yay, dark fog on my other planet. Hopefully that is all fine and dandy. Yeah, so that is it for me for this episode. I will see you in the next one, and thanks for watching.